Hello. Welcome to this new video. This time I want to go over a topic that I believe anyone who wants to get into cybersecurity should know from the get go. You have to know this. We're going to be talking about well known ports, register ports, and ephemeral ports. So these are the well known ports. So we have that, and the ranges are from 0 to 1023. So for that, when you're looking at packets, like for instance, if I'm looking at my, I'm gonna bring Wireshark in here. If I'm looking at Wireshark and I'm looking at the information that I'm seeing on one of the packets, for instance, if I expand, and we're gonna be talking about this, I see a destination port of 53. Like you have to know that that's DNS, right? So when you see anything going over port 53, you would assume at least that that's DNS traffic. So you have an idea of what's happening. You're putting the picture together of what's taking place. Then we have the registered ports. And these are ports that are not assigned to well known services like the well known ports, but they are assigned or registered or set aside for specific applications. And it varies. I don't think there's any specific written rule on them. Obviously, they are from 1024 to 49,000 and change. And we have applications that work on those specific ports. For instance, we have RDP. The default port is 3389, but you know that you can change that to anything that you would like to change that to. And you can also have HTTPS running on different ports, such as 8080 or 8443. And I believe that these are um, maybe unofficial standards that have been in the industry for a long time, and they're just assumed as best practices. I've seen 8080 for a very, very long time, but I don't think there's any written rule that if you want to use HTTP on a port other than 443, I'm referring to HTTPS, I should say, that you have to use 8080 or 8443. You could use anything you want, as long as it doesn't cause a conflict with anything else. And then we have this, and this is what I wanted to talk about, ephemeral ports, because this is a concept that many people misunderstand. And if you are getting into cybersecurity, you need to understand this concept. So ephemeral ports are going to be random ports that are going to be created by the client when the client, in this case, tries to connect to a well-known port to a service somewhere to establish a connection. And I'm going to use this DNS example right here. As you can see, when I'm looking at the UDP packet, I'm looking at the source port, and in this case, it is my computer that wants to perform a DNS query to a DNS server. For my computer, I am not going to connect to the service on port 53 because that is the listening port the service is listening to, it's listening on, I should say, right? So I have to initiate a connection on an ephemeral port. The application is going to keep track, and the operating system, of all the ephemeral ports that are open and available, and it's going to pick one randomly, and it's going to use it to establish that connection. So as you could see, my connection is going to be established on port 63,000 and change, and it's going to go to port 53 on the uh, server side. And the same is this is the same case for all other connections, like in here, right? And then from here you're going to see a reply. The connection has been established, and I'm getting a reply from that server 9999, which is a DNS server, coming on port 53 to port 63,000 and change, which is the port that the connection was established. Why is this important? And again, let me reinforce this one more time. It is important because when you're analyzing logs, when you're analyzing traffic, when you're creating rules, you have to look into these traffic patterns and understand what you're looking at. And you have to determine whether this is something that is legitimate or not. The only reason why this connection from port 53 to port 63,000 and change is being allowed coming back in through my firewall is because I initiated that connection before, and that connection was established and it is maintaining the session table. When you see an ephemeral port, that port does not necessarily mean that the connection is illegitimate or is suspicious. It could be anything. Now, this is something that you also have to keep in mind because some viruses and malware could exploit working or transmitting over that type of ports, and you have to look at or but when I'm saying you, I'm not necessarily referring to you. Hopefully, you're going to have the right tools to analyze traffic patterns that are going to monitor the traffic patterns no matter what ports are communicating on. But that needs to be in place because you need to understand and ensure that the traffic that is supposed to be going on that channel is going to be the traffic that is supposed to be going on that channel, and that it is a legitimate traffic. So if we come down here to I'm using a Windows computer, you could do a netstab command and you could see the session table, right, along with the process ID that is used in that connection. You could see and this is something that if you're going to be a security analyst, you're going to be doing day in and day out. uh, I may be exaggerating, but you're going to be doing this a lot, right? You're going to be analyzing session tables, you're going to be analyzing the traffic, and you're going to be looking at, and you have to understand, oh, something is initiating from my loopback address and it's using a port that it looks kind of suspicious and it's connecting to the loopback address, and you're going to say, you know what, this is normal traffic, right? But you're going to be looking into other traffic. For instance, you're going to be coming from your IP address on port 15,000 going to 4353. Is that connection legitimate or not? And then you are going to say, you know what, let me look at the process ID. And obviously, when you look at the process ID, you have to take it one step further. You have to look at the process that is using that process ID number for your troubleshooting. But what I'm trying to say is that you have to have a clear understanding of this is a perfect example right here. I have um, an ephemeral port to 64,000 and change connected to HTTP S on whatever this thing is. I have no idea what that connection is. The point is, you have to understand your ports, you have to understand how the connection works, you have to understand how the sockets get established, which is the IP address by the port that's going to equal a socket, so that you can understand the traffic that is happening in your network. When it comes to any cybersecurity exam, CEH or Net or Security Plus, or there are so many certifications out there, I lost track of them. You have to understand this concept, but most importantly, you have to understand how to put this into practice and how to read logs, how to look at a Wireshark traffic capture and understand what is taking place here. Let me clear this. And you're going to be looking at this and you're going to be looking at the protocols, and it's going to give you a picture of what's happening in the network. So, with that being said, I hope that I was able to explain in a very short way the differences between well known ports, registered ports, and ephemeral ports, and how you can use that knowledge for your cybersecurity career if you want to get into it. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you on the next video.